All right, let's get it started. Thanks everyone for joining this session, Platform Privacy and Academy session. The topic that we're going to cover today is around protect employee and customer personal information with ServiceNow data privacy. My name is Furqas Salim. I'm a outbound PM in Platform Privacy and Security team. With me today, Barka, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much, Furqat. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Barka Batija. I'm part of the Platform Security and Privacy Product Management team. My primary responsibilities here include everything related to data privacy, like data discovery, classification, anonymization, and all the different regulations that we work on, just enabling and helping our customers to be in compliance with all these regulations on the ServiceNow platform. Thank you. Furqat,
Thank you, Barka. Let's get it started. So as always, we have to start by reminding you that we might talk about things that are on the roadmap. Since we're a publicly traded company, there are some rules about making forward-looking statements. So please make your purchasing decision based on the product that it exists today. The quick agenda item that we're going to cover. The first, we're going to talk about the unique business value of Vault, as well as around the data privacy, which is part of ServiceNow Vault product. And then we're going to be talking about the data privacy specifically, and then I'll pass it over to Barka, and Barka is going to go through some of the end-to-end demo on how to protect financial service operation around with data privacy. And then I'll cover some of the customer engagement channels with other incoming Academy session topics, and then we'll address some questions as well. So before we talk a little bit more about the ServiceNow, well, let's talk about some of the why data privacy is extremely important right now. What is the essentials that we need to know? What is the problem that we're trying to solve as well? So there's an increasing number of security and privacy regulations being created and managed by governments and organizations around the world. And you can see a visual list of just how many there on this map, and this is not even all of them. In fact, 71% of countries already have legislation, with another 9% on the deck to introduce new legislations. This means that the data protection and privacy conversation is one of that we need to be proactive about and feel more comfortable with as we serve a global customer base. GDPR, listed in the middle of the screen, is arguably the most well-known set of data privacy rules. Companies caught not complying, for example, not abiding by those right to be forgotten mandates, can be fined roughly around like $20 million or 4% of the worldwide turnover for the preceding financial year. And whichever number is greater is the one that will affect them. The customers that are worried about this want to know that their software vendors have solutions in place to help them comply with these type of regulations, and that's where ServiceNow Vault can help. And what is ServiceNow Vault? It is our marquee security enhancement suite intended to provide additional layer of security and privacy capabilities for the Now platform, and it consists of 5 key security elements. 1, platform encryption. Native standard-based data at rest encryption with customer-controlled key lifecycle, which allows organizations to comply with industry mandates. The second, data privacy, to ensure data privacy by classifying and anonymizing specific data fields containing personally identifiable information, or we call it PII. And this is one of the areas that we're going to cover heavily today. The third, secrets management, to securely store and control access to credentials in ServiceNow like passwords, certificates, API keys, and tokens. The fourth, code signing, to validate authenticity and integrity of the software on the mid server. And the last premium product that we like to cover here as part of ServiceNow Vault is Log as per Service. We call it LAS, which improves security threat monitoring with easy integration of ServiceNow system logs into a larger enterprise security analytics system. So this comprehensive security solution has been packaged to make it easy for organizations to order and consume the solution. But as part of today's sessions, we're going to be covering data privacy specifically, which is a part of ServiceNow Vault as well. So what is data privacy? ServiceNow Data Privacy provides a tool to protect sensitive data like PII and PHI by using data discovery, classification, and anonymization capability to specific data fields or users to ensure the privacy of confidential data and increase regulatory compliance. It consists of three major components: data discovery, data classification, and the data anonymization. Both data discovery and classification features really help users to discover and understand their confidential data properly with the right data classes before it gets anonymized. The data anonymization gives users the ability to redact sensitive information in ServiceNow instances by using the right tool and technique. And as you can see, the data discovery as well as data classification it's all about know about your data. And the data anonymization is more about protecting your data by using the right techniques and tool. ServiceNow Data Discovery is a new feature that we introduced in May, the store release, as part of data privacy. What it really does is to identify the sensitive data by applying intelligent discovery capability to the table we target with the active data patterns we created and define what data we have, where it's located with all the classification statuses. It also elevates the compliance level and the reduced risk by identifying sensitive data and avoid potential threat and a negative impact to your brand as well. Data anonymization gives the user the ability to redact sensitive information in ServiceNow instances by using the right tool and the techniques. Data privacy, including the anonymization feature, has two main use cases. The first use case is GDPR, as I just explained in the previous slide, right to be forgotten request. One use case is for GDPR, right to be forgotten request is, let's say an employee leaves the company or a customer of ours has their own customers, think customer service management, CSM, for example, where they need to anonymize customer data. And you can select a user and a customer PII or PHI associated with that user in a production instances. The second use case is to anonymize sensitive data going into cloning or sub-production environments so that the information is not accidentally shared with the third parties or as part of delegated implementations, such as with system implementers. Delegated development in customer software development lifecycle, for example, SDLC, the production environment has all the real data, including PII, PHI, and other sensitive data as well. And in order for these other instances to be used properly, they also need data, most often copied from production, in order to provide the most realistic way to test new configurations. But if we copy information from production, that usually means we are copying PHI and PII and other sensitive data and exposing it to the development teams that may not need to see it or they shouldn't see it. These dev team in these other environment can be full-time employees of the company themselves, or they could be the third-party contractors working outside of the company, or even the country that the development is occurring in. And so the customer can use data anonymization to natively de-identify the PII and PHI associated with the information they're pushing down into these lower environment. This ensures that these sub-prods have the legitimate data they need for configuration and testing without exposing information they shouldn't be exposing outside of the production, the environment. So with that, I concluded the ServiceNow Vault overall, what it does and what it contains with all the premium products. And then today's session, we're going to be covering more around like data privacy. With that, I'll pass it over to Barka to go over some of the real-time demo as well.
Thank you, Furqad. Let me know if you're able to see my screen now.
I can.
Okay, great. So we will cover two different demos. The first one is going to be data discovery and classification. That's the know your data part. So if you don't even know where exactly your sensitive or PII data is located, you will not be able to protect it. So the first step is always understanding where your data is located and creating a catalog of it with the help of data classification. On this instance, I have data discovery installed. Data discovery was introduced. It went GA just last month in May as a store app, and it works on top of Utah. With this, I have the data discovery installed. Let me go to all data pattern. Here by default, out of box, we are shipping few data patterns. Anything which has the protection policy as read only, these are the data patterns which we have shipped out of the box. So that includes social security number, credit card number diners, credit card number Amex, credit card Discover, and credit card MasterCard, and credit card Visa. We also ship out of box pattern for US phone number and email ID. Customers do have an option of creating their own custom data pattern by using regular expression. In this case, I have created two custom data pattern, which is for Argentina phone number and the health record number. I'm going to go ahead and click on new, and I'm going to create a new data pattern here. I'm going to enter the description. It's going to be the data pattern for capturing or discovering US driver's license record check. I enter the name and I enter the regular expression for the for the US driver license number. Once I've done that, I am not 100% sure if this is the correct regular expression. So in this case, the next step I do is I click on test. This is the expression. I enter a driver's license number to see if it matches or it does not match. Once I've entered it, I click on test, and the pattern was discovered. So that means this pattern is correct and it's able to discover it. I'll go ahead and cancel it. Once I've canceled it, I can go ahead and submit this data pattern. Once I submit it, it comes up here in the list. Now, under data discovery, all data pattern, you will have a list of everything, each and every data pattern that was shipped out of box at the same time that you have created. The next one is active data pattern. So any data pattern that you would like to scan as part of the next job needs to be under the active data pattern list. So right now, active data pattern list for me is empty. I'm going to click on edit. It's going to give me a list of all the available data patterns. I'm going to click few of them like social security number, diners, credit card diners club, US phone number, Amex, Discover, email, and MasterCard, Visa. I would like to scan these data patterns. So that's the reason I've picked it under the selected list. I'm going to go ahead and click on save. Now I know what data patterns I would like to search for, but where exactly I am searching this for? Am I searching this within the complete instance or under selected table? I need to pick that. So for that, I'm going to go to the third step, which is picking the target tables. In this case, I already have few tables set, including the sysuser. Sysuser table does have some PII, which we will go through that. I'm going to go ahead and click on new and pick a table, a target table that I would like to scan. On this instance, I have CSM, which is customer service management, and the financial services operations workflow. So I know in the CSM consumer table, I do have some PII. So I'm going to pick on CSM consumer and I'm going to submit. I would like to add one more table, which is for the accounts. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the customer account table to discover PII under that table. Once I have picked the data patterns, once I've picked the tables in which I would like to run a scan, the last step is running the data discovery job. Right now, it's empty because I haven't run any job. I'm going to click on new. And then, so with Utah, we have data discovery, which mainly is useful for structured data use cases, and that's called sample scan. So what that means is it will go ahead and scan for 10,000 records or 10,000 rows in a table. So it will go ahead and scan CSM consumer table, only 10,000 records. But let's say the table includes 1 million records. It will not go ahead and scan each and every record. It will just scan for 10,000 records. This is helpful and valuable in case of structured data use cases. So if I have SSN in 10 different rows, I know I'm going to have SSN in other rows as well. So this will help in that use case. We are also coming up with a full detailed scan. So it will go ahead and do a full scan for the first time And then the next time it will be a delta scan. So anything that is added or modified after the first scan will run as delta scan. So full and delta scan is coming up later this year in Vancouver. For now, we have sample scan. I'm going to go ahead and add all the information to run the scan. I've put the name. I'm going to put the time as well. I'm going to put the description. I'm going to put the time and I'm going to submit it. I'm going to click on it, schedule the job. Once the job is scheduled, the state will change. So right now it is in progress. Under context and summary, it will give you the complete description of what all data patterns are being searched, what are the different columns that are being scanned, what are the number of rows that are being scanned, and then how long it's taking. I'm going to go ahead and finish the job. The job is in a completed state right now. At the bottom of the job, if you see, it will give a complete description of the data discovery findings. So under CSM consumer table, there was email data pattern that was discovered in the email column. And the data pattern match count is 81. So it tried to search for 80, it tried to scan 82 records, but it was able to find the data pattern in 81 of them. And by default, the status on each of the new data discovery findings is set to new. Now, data discovery finding, it shows me everything here, which is specific to this job. But if I have multiple jobs, I'm going to go under the data discovery findings tab. It will give me all the details for all the different jobs. In my case, I only have one job run, so it only has that job details. Next, I'm going to go and I'm going to group by the data pattern. So I have multiple data patterns, but I would like to group and see what data patterns were discovered. So in this case, I do see data pattern email. So I was able to discover email in the CSM consumer column. I'm going to go ahead and select those. I'm going to scroll on this side. So this default status is new. I know about this email column, but at this stage, I do not want to take any action on it. So that is the reason I'm going to go ahead and change the status from new to ignored. Next, I'm going to go and pick few other columns like customer account, email, and sysuser email. I know this has PII, and I would like to take an action on that. That is the reason I've selected those. And then on top, I'm going to go ahead and click on classify. Data classification is an out-of-box plugin which was introduced in Quebec. Data classification will help you group your PII into different items. By default, I believe we have 4 or 5 data classes for PII sensitive public information, but you do have an option of going ahead and either adding your own data classes by having a parent or a child relationship, or you can use the existing data classes as well. In this case, I have modified my data classification a little bit, and I've added a data class called confidential. I'm going to click on confidential, and I would like to classify these 3 items under confidential. And I'm going to go ahead and click on classify. Once it is classified, I would like to see how it shows up. I would like to have a single pane of glass view. So I'm going to go to the dashboard. Under dashboard, it will tell me details on what were all the discovered data pattern. So I don't need to go to the discovery findings and go through each and every row. I can just go to this donut chart and get a nice view of what were the discovered data pattern. What is the status of those? How many of them are new? How many of them are classified? And how many of them I've marked as ignored. It also gives me a very good layout of what were all the data patterns that were discovered in each table, and a detailed view as well. So this is data discovery and classification. Data discovery and classification will help you discover your PII within the ServiceNow instance and then go ahead and classify that. Now we have classified it. That's great, but how do I protect it? What do I do in order to protect it? So if you remember, Furqat did show the 3rd pillar, which was apply protection of anonymization. So this is the second demo, and I'm going to go and walk you through the different use cases for data anonymization. I'm going to click on all. Here I have data privacy, which includes an overview of classification and anonymization installed. Data anonymization was introduced as a plugin in Tokyo, and it is part of Vault. On top of that, we added a store app in Feb of this year, which works on top of Utah. The store app is the new UI for anonymization. But in terms of functionality, the plugin, which works with Tokyo, does the exact same thing. But if you care about the new UI, then that's something which was released as a store app in Feb of this year. Here I have the new store app installed, which is data privacy store app. Under that, we have overview, classification, and anonymization. I'm going to click on overview. With the overview, it gives me a very good view of what all is classifiable data. So what all data I have on my instance, which can be classified. Then the data that is classified, what is it classified as? So I have 13 records, which are classified as confidential. It also gives me a view of anonymization job. What were the anonymization jobs that were run and what is the status? In case if I would like to see what is classification, what is anonymization, and the different FAQ resources, I do not have to leave my store app. I do not have to leave my instance. I can just go ahead and click on learn more, and it will have a step-by-step walkthrough for what is classification and what is anonymization. Next, I'm going to go to classification, and let's look at what all we have classified. So we have confidential, internal, public, and restricted. Right now, we have some classified data. So I have the data classified as confidential. So I have 13 records which are classified as confidential here. So everything will show up here. Now let's look at what PII do we have within this instance. As I said, we have CSM and financial services installed here. And I do have some PII under the CSM column and also the customer account table. I have some PII under sys user as well. So let's just go ahead and see what we have there. So I have financial services, and then I'm going to go under customer. I'm going to go to consumers. This is my consumers table. I have PII, which is personally identifiable information like name, mobile number, credit card number, and then city as well. Let me go to the second table, which is the accounts table. Under the accounts table, I have some PII like name. Then I have the physical address, which is the street address, the city, email ID, and also the phone number. The third table that we are going to anonymize, or part of anonymize today, is the sys user. So under the sys users table, I have user ID, I have the email ID, the employee number, and the phone number as well. Now we've seen we have all the PII here in these three different columns. Now let's go to anonymization and let's see how we can anonymize the information in these tables. I'm going to anonymization. In anonymization, out of box, we have few techniques. I'm going to click on view techniques to see exactly what these techniques are. Out of box, we have selective replace, static replace, random replace, remove, and if at all you do not want to take any action, we also have no action. Now, between all these different techniques, they can be used for multiple use cases, but we do support structure and format preserving techniques, which we will see once we go to creating custom technique and also policies. If you would like to create, if you would like to save the format of, let's say, phone number or email ID, you can go ahead and do that. So in this case, if I want to have the email ID format by making sure @ symbol stays in the email, so I know that's the actual email, we have an option of excluding that as well. So these are the base techniques. Either you can use a base technique or create a custom technique. Right now, I'm going to create a custom technique using static replace. So I've picked static replace. I'm going to use this to anonymize customer phone number. So I've given that as a technique name. I'm going to give the description, click on next. So with selective replace, I can pick what do I want to replace the PII with. So in this case, if my PII is a date time value, this is what I'm replacing it with. That is 1988 98-11-11 and then the time. If it is a date value, this is what I'm replacing it with. That's 98-11-11. If it's a number value, I would like to replace it with 000. So I have added that here. If it is a string value, I'm replacing it with text 123. With that, I'm going to go ahead and create the custom technique. For the ease of this demo, I've created few more custom techniques like anonymized credit card number, anonymized email, and also the customer phone number. Let's go ahead and look at each of these techniques and see what do we have. What is the base technique? So the customer phone number, we already checked what we have here. So in customer phone number, for a string value, I'm replacing it with text 123. For anonymized email ID, in this case, I am going to use this to anonymize the email ID. Here, I would like to keep the format of the email ID, and that is the reason under exclude character, I have typed @. So I do not want to anonymize @, and that is what it is here. I would like to anonymize and replace my email ID with an asterisk symbol. So I've mentioned that here. I would like to start anonymization right from the first character of the email. So that is the reason I have written 1 here. I'm going to go ahead and save here. Let's look at what we are using to anonymize the credit card number. To anonymize credit card number, I'm using the selective replace. Here, I do not want to anonymize the first digit of my credit card number because the first digit of my credit card number would have information on is it from Discover, Visa, or MasterCard. So I do not want to anonymize that. At the same time, I do not want to anonymize the last 4 digits of my credit card number. That is the reason the end index of credit card typically is 16-digit long. So here under end index, I have put 12. So we will go ahead and anonymize only till the 12th character. I do not want to exclude anything, so I'm going to keep it blank. I'm anonymizing it with the asterisk. And then I'm starting this from the second character because I need to keep the first digit of the credit card intact. So that's the reason start index is 2. I'm going to go ahead and save it. So this is step 1 of anonymization, that is creating techniques. The step 2 is creating a policy. Between techniques and policy, it's not going to be something that you would do on a regular basis. You would typically be creating techniques and policy just once initially, and then it's mainly just going to be running the anonymization job, either as part of clone, or it can be also when someone leaves the company, which is mainly for right to be forgotten use case. Let me go to the second step, which is creating a new policy. So as Furqat mentioned in the slide, we have 2 main use cases. The first one is for sub-prod use case. So if you would like to have a clone on your lower or sub-prod environment, but you do not want any sensitive data leakage, in that case, you would like to anonymize certain columns. So that is the data tables or column. So that's the use case. And the other one we have is user specific data. If you would like to anonymize PII only specific to a user, so let's say the user is no longer part of the company, or if it's not doing any business with you and you do not want to have any legal liability of keeping their PII, you can go ahead and anonymize that data. For this demo, let us first look at anonymizing data tables or columns. I'm going to click on that, create. I'm going to enter some basic information, and anonymization is dependent on data classification. In short, all the PII or all the data must be classified in order to use data anonymization. Here, I have a mandatory field to pick which data class I would like to process here. In this case, I'm going to pick confidential. That is where we had around 13 columns that were classified as confidential. The other one is cloning. Activate policy during cloning. If you would like this anonymization job to run only during clone and anonymize it only in your subprod, you will activate this policy. So I'm going to go ahead and activate it. And you also have an option of putting in the policy number. If you do not put anything, I believe by default it's the 100 number, but you do have an option of how important anonymization is for you as compared to other scripts that are running during clone. For the sake of this demo, I do not want to run this as part of clone, but again, this is an option that you should be able, that you should leverage, especially when you are moving your PII in your lower environment. Here, I have an option of assigning the techniques that we created. So that is the out-of-box base techniques and the custom techniques. We have an option of picking all of this technique. So here, under CSM consumer table, we have business phone number, right? And then the data type is PH_phone number. Which technique I would like to use here? So if you guys remember, we did create a technique which was for customer phone number. So I'm going to pick the customer phone number here. You also have an option of using the bulk assign technique if you do not want to go over each and every column here. But for the sake of this demo, I have created or I have added techniques for other items as well. So for sys user employee number, I do not want to anonymize that. So I have picked no action. So do not take any action. There are a few more columns on which I'm not taking any action. On the home phone number, I'm anonymizing it using customer phone number. If I scroll down on the customer account table, email column, I am using anonymized email. So anonymized email, we were using selective replace technique in which we are excluding @ to keep the structure and the format of the email ID. And for CSM consumer table, credit card number column, we are using anonymized credit card number, which is again using selective replace, but keeping the first and the last 4 digits intact. With that, I'm going to go ahead and publish the policy. Once the policy is published, I can go ahead and click on schedule job. I can add the job description. I can put in the start and the end time. Here we have a small box which is called as dry run. If as part of a job, you do not want to anonymize the actual data, but you just want to run what you just want to understand what will be the rows or the columns that will be impacted due to this job, you can click on dry run. Again, dry run will not anonymize the actual data. It will just give you an idea of how the data would look like and what will be the rows and columns that will be impacted during anonymization. I'm not going to select dry run here and click on schedule job. So I have already scheduled the job. Let's look at what's happening. The job is completed. Since the job is completed, the data must be anonymized. Now we can go ahead and look at the data. But before that, why don't we create one more policy, which is for users? So I'm going to go ahead and create a new policy. And I'm going to pick user specific data. So I am going to anonymize PII only that is specific to certain users. So I'm going to click that, click on create. I'm going to enter some basic information. So I'm using this for GDPR, right to be forgotten request. I'm going to pick the data class, which is confidential. Click on continue. And again, I need to pick all the techniques here. I have already assigned certain techniques. So for sys user email, I'm using the remove technique. So what that means is the email ID will be completely removed. It will not show up as asterisk or something, but I'm going ahead and completely removing it. So that's remove. I have few more items here, like for fax number, I do not want to touch it. So it's no action. Home phone number, I'm removing that as well. And even the gender, I'm going to remove it. Phone number, I'm removing it. And for a few others, I'm not taking any action. I'm going to save the policy and publish it. Once it is published, I have an option of scheduling a job. I'm going to schedule a job. In this, I can go ahead and pick the start and the end time. I also have an option of running dry run. But if you notice, I have one more selection here, which is select users. Here, I can pick the users whose PII I would like to anonymize. So I'm going to go ahead and pick two users, which is Able Tutor and Abraham Lincoln. So I would like to anonymize PII of Able Tutor and Abraham Lincoln. So I'm going to pick those users. I'm going to click on the schedule job. Let me go and see what happened with the job. It's completed. Here, if you notice, there is a rollback button as well. In case if you anonymized user data because of, and later you realize it was a mistake of fat fingers, you have an option of using rollback. So whenever you anonymize, it will create a rollback context. By default, the rollback context is created for 3 days, but you do have an option of changing it from 3 days to either 0 days or increasing it as well. Right now, I'm not going to go ahead and roll back. So I'm going to cancel this out. And since the job has completed, let's go and look at the actual tables and see how does my data look like right now. So if you remember, we went to the consumer table and we saw there was some PII. Let's go and look at the consumer table again. So this is the consumer table. Under mobile phone number, we have anonymized it using a static replace technique. So anything that was string data, we said replace it with text 123. So that's how it shows up here. So mobile phone number anonymized using static replace text 123. Credit card number, we used selective replace. We kept the first character intact. We anonymized from character 2 to 12. And we also kept the last 4 characters intact. So that is what the credit card number shows up as. Let's go to the second column. And here, this is anonymized as a complete column. So the complete credit card number column is anonymized. Let's go to the second table, which is the accounts table. Here we anonymize the email ID. Again, we use selective replace by keeping @ symbol. So we have everything anonymized except for @, which keeps the format of the email ID. So this is the first 2 scheduled jobs that we had. This is something which is useful if you want to anonymize data within a complete column. Let's look at the third table, which is the sys user table. Under sys user table, we picked Able Tutor and Abraham Lincoln, and we wanted to anonymize PII only related to Able Tutor and Abraham Lincoln. So here for Able and Abraham, we have completely removed the email ID, the employee phone number, and the mobile phone number, but we haven't touched any other user. So for example, Adela, we have the email ID, employee phone number, and the mobile phone number intact. We did not anonymize any of that information. So this is something that you can use if the employee is no longer part of your company and you do not want to have any legal liability of keeping their PII. That's one option. The other one is in case of an ex-employee, if they have put in a request to remove their PII or anonymize their PII, de-identify their PII, you can go ahead and use anonymization right to be forgotten policy for the same as well. With that, I will pause and pass it over to you, Furqat.
All right, thank you. That's very quite a lot of information there with all the demos with 2 use cases. Thank you, Barka, on this. There's 2 questions. One is from Michelle regarding to, is data discovery part of ITSM Pro?
Okay, so thank you, Michelle. So right now, data discovery is part of ServiceNow Vault. And ServiceNow Vault is a completely different SKU, and it is not part of ITSM Pro. But data discovery is a platform-wide feature, so you can use it for any workflow. You can use it for ITSM or for HRSD, legal SD, or anything. But in terms of licensing, it's a different SKU.
All right, thank you. The second one is the sample scan, the first 10K or random finding.
Random. It is random, random 10,000 records.
All right, there's a third question. With data anonymization, record history and audit information is not getting anonymized, especially in the task activity feed. All the historic information will still display username details even after anonymizing username. This is affecting our GDPR requirements. Any possible workaround for this?
So there are few things that the team is looking at. One is if you have an option of disabling the audit tracking, which I know a lot of people will not be able to do that, especially for audit purposes. But we are also looking at supporting the history and the audit record anonymization. It's something which is in a roadmap and it is a top priority. So it will come up sometime soon.
All right, thank you so much. Any other questions? You'll feel free to type, and we're happy to address that as well. There's one more question. Disabling audit is definitely not an option for us. Any ETA in audit anonymization?
We are looking on audit anonymization for some time early 2024. So that will probably be sometime in Washington. But again, we are still planning for Washington, so it's not finalized, and this is forward-looking information. But yeah, it is a top priority.
Awesome. Is the licensing based on the number of users?
Licensing for Vault currently is based on % of annual contract value, and it does not matter how many users you have. It's just a percentage of your total yearly contract value.
Yep, that's what I typed the same as well. There's a lot of wonderful questions there. Thanks for asking. Yeah, let me share my screen as a recap. So with that, there are a few other Academy sessions that we will be covering as part of the ServiceNow Vault components, and feel free to tune in and register by scanning the QR code below. I'll just pause here a little bit, and then feel free to ask any questions if you still have. And also we have plenty of different documentations. Feel free to register our Platform Privacy and Security Academy sessions on YouTube. And that we have the documentations available for you to read through all the blog posts and articles and some other the guidance around all the Vault components as well. And we have our Platform Privacy and Security community site where you can see all the relevant information around the use cases too, with not only on the data privacy related, but also all ServiceNow Vault related as well. And there are two more questions. In Tokyo, can we do the apply information for more than 10,000 users at a time?
So yeah, I was just typing that. So not in Tokyo, but in Vancouver, which is releasing later this year, I believe in September. You can go ahead and pick more than 10 users, and you can go ahead and pick groups as well for anonymization. But that's coming in Vancouver. That's later this year.
Okay, thank you. And John asked will this slide, can we share the slide? This will not be shared as it's internal, but I will upload all the recordings on our YouTube channel. And then I sent the link on our chat window as well. Or you just simply go into YouTube and then just type ServiceNow Platform Privacy or Security or ServiceNow Vault, and you will see all the relevant the information that we're uploading on that channel as well. No problem, thank you. Let's wait one more minute to see if there's any other questions. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. Thank you, Barka. I appreciate it for your participation. It's a wonderful demo. Thanks for joining in. With that, I'll summarize today's sessions around ServiceNow Vault, especially in data privacy, with all the use cases plus the real-time demo on protecting financial service operation. Thanks for joining. Don't forget to just subscribe to our YouTube channel to see all different the recordings and presentation there. At the same time, please register to our incoming webinars as well. With that, thank you so much for joining. Till next time, stay tuned. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.